It wouldn't shock me to see XRP above $3.40. Now, that line is not from some random voice online chasing clicks. That is the chief executive of Canary Capital, one of the people who actually helped bring Bitcoin exchange-traded funds to Wall Street. So think about that for a second. This man could have hyped a wild moonshot number. It would have helped his own fund. It would have gotten him headlines. Instead, he stayed calm, and he stayed specific. And that, right there, is exactly why you need to hear the 3 quiet catalysts he says are lining up behind XRP right now. Because here is what is really going on. Right now, almost all the noise around XRP is about price. How high, how fast, how soon. But the man at the center of today's video is not chasing a headline. He is a serious finance veteran who spent years watching XRP from a distance, arms folded, unconvinced. And then, something changed his mind. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly who he is, the precise number he just gave, and the much deeper reason sitting underneath it. We are going to separate what is a fact from what is only an opinion. We are going to look at what would genuinely have to happen for these numbers to become real. And we are going to do it the honest way. No hype, no fear, just the clearest picture I can hand you. This is Crypto with BHW, and this is the honest version of the Canary Capital story. Quick note before we dive in, this is not financial advice. Everything you hear today is my personal opinion and research, for educational purposes only. Always do your own research. Okay, let us get into it. So who is this guy, and why should you care what he thinks about XRP? His name is Steven McClurg, and he is not your average crypto personality. He built his name in traditional finance first, the old world, the suits and the boardrooms. He was a managing director at Guggenheim Partners, one of the giants of the investment world, where he ran strategy for fixed income and private equity. This is serious Wall Street pedigree. Then he co-founded a firm called Valkyrie, and this is the part I really want you to hear. Valkyrie was one of the companies that helped launch some of the very first Bitcoin exchange-traded funds in the entire United States. He was also the lead manager on a Bitcoin mining fund that became the single best-performing exchange-traded fund of the year 2023. Let that sink in. When it comes to actually building regulated products that connect big Wall Street money to the crypto world, this man has already done it, at the highest level, more than once. After Valkyrie was acquired by a larger European firm, McClurg did not retire to a beach somewhere. He started a brand new company called Canary Capital. And here is the twist that makes this whole story so interesting. For a long time, McClurg was not an XRP believer, not even close. He has openly admitted that for years he simply watched XRP from a distance. It was an asset he monitored, nothing more. He was, in his own way, a skeptic. But over the last couple of years, as the XRP Ledger started handling more and more real-world activity, he took another look. And what he saw made him reassess everything. This is the piece most people gloss over. This is not a man who has been screaming about XRP since 2017. This is not someone who is emotionally attached to the coin. This is a careful, institutional finance veteran who came to XRP late and who came to it through the cold, hard numbers. And in my experience, that kind of conversion, the reluctant believer, the former doubter who changes his mind, that carries a completely different weight than the guy who has been cheerleading forever. So the obvious question becomes, what exactly did he see that dragged him off the sidelines and into the game? Stay right where you are, because his answer and the number attached to it might not be what you expect. All right, let us talk about the number, because this is what set the whole community on fire. In a recent interview, McClurg was asked directly where he sees XRP heading, and his answer, in the spirit of what he said, was this. It would not shock him to see XRP climb above $3.40 in the coming months. In another part of the same conversation, he framed it as $3 to $4 over roughly the next 12 months. Now let us be real with each other for a second. As I record this, XRP is trading around $1.43, and that is after a huge weekly rally that briefly pushed it close to $1.70 before it pulled back hard. So a move to $3 or $4 from here is, roughly speaking, a double. Maybe a little more. And I already know what some of you are thinking. Only $3 to $4? That is it? Where's the $10 XRP? Where's the 20? Where's the 50? And honestly, I get the reaction. But here's what I need you to notice. And this is the honest part that separates the calm voices from the loud ones. McClurg did not sugarcoat a single thing. In the very same breath as that number, he said he still views this as a tough, bear-leaning market. He pointed straight at September, which is historically one of the weakest months for risk assets. He pointed at the United States midterm elections as a source of real volatility ahead. Does that sound like a man promising you the moon by next week? It is not. It is a professional handing you a grounded target with all the risks stapled to it. And that kind of honesty is genuinely rare in this space. Now let us zoom out and compare that to the big bank forecasts, because context matters. Standard Chartered, through their head of digital assets research, Jeffrey Kendrick, has a roadmap that runs much higher over a longer timeline. Their revised numbers point to somewhere around $2.80 this year, then $7 in 2027, then $12.60 by 2028, and climbing all the way toward $28 by 2030. Those are massive figures. But here is the honest footnote almost nobody mentions. Earlier this year, Kendrick actually cut his near-term target by 65% after XRP crashed. He slashed the short-term number, and then he raised the long-term ones at the very same time. Why does that matter so much to you? Because it proves one simple, powerful thing. Even the sharpest bank analysts on the planet are estimating. They revise, they adjust, constantly. These are projections, not prophecies. So when you place McClurg's grounded $3 to $4 call right next to the bank's longer runway toward $28, what you are looking at is not a guarantee of anything. What you are looking at is a spread of serious institutional opinion. And understanding that spread is far more valuable than memorizing any single number. And let me give you one more honest reality check on the math. At around $1.43, XRP already carries a market value of roughly $90 billion. To reach $3.40, you are talking about a market value north of $200 billion. That is a serious climb. But is it fantasy? No. XRP has actually traded above $3 before, back at its all-time peak. So it is possible. It has happened. The question is what would have to line up for it to happen again and to hold, which is why the number itself is almost the least interesting part of this whole story. The reason behind the number, that is where it gets really good. Let me show you. Here is the thing most people completely miss. When McClurg talks about XRP, he is not really talking about a quick trade. He is talking about XRP winning the entire race to become the financial rails of the future. Those are essentially his words. He has said for years that the winner for financial rails, the actual plumbing that institutions use to move value around the world, is going to be XRP. And his reasoning is fascinating because it takes one of the most common criticisms of XRP and flips it completely upside down. You have probably heard people say that XRP is too centralized, that it is not decentralized enough compared to some other networks. McClurg looks at that exact same fact and says, for institutions, that is not a weakness at all. That is the feature they actually want. Think about it from the point of view of a bank. A giant bank moving billions of dollars does not want a wild, anonymous, fully decentralized free-for-all. It cannot operate that way. A bank needs compliance. It needs controls. It needs to know who is on the other side of a transaction, and it needs to answer to regulators. So the very thing that some crypto purists criticize about XRP, that more structured, more controllable design, could be the exact reason the biggest players in global finance choose it first. That is a genuinely different way of seeing things, and it comes from a man who has spent his whole career inside those institutions. And there is a second layer to his thesis that is newer and honestly more exciting. The XRP Ledger is starting to offer yield, real, native ways to earn a return inside the ecosystem through institutional lending and credit markets that are being built right now as we speak. McClurg pointed directly to new lending infrastructure being developed on the ledger, projects designed to bring professional borrowers and lenders on-chain in a compliant way. Why does that matter? Because capital chases yield, always has, always will. If a large institution can hold value on the XRP ledger and actually earn a return while doing it, then suddenly XRP is not just a bridge for moving payments from point A to point B. It becomes a place where serious money genuinely wants to sit and stay. So let me ask you a simple yes or no question right here, right now. If XRP truly became the settlement layer that the world's banks actually trust and use every single day, would a price of $3 or $4 still sound small to you? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments below because I do read them, and your answer tells me a lot about how you are seeing this next chapter. Now, a big, beautiful thesis is a wonderful thing, but a thesis on its own is just a story. A thesis needs fuel. So what is actually pushing real capital toward XRP today, in the real world, not in theory, not on a slide? That is where this gets very concrete and very real. Let us talk about the fuel, because this is where McClurg has real skin in the game, and I am going to be completely straight with you about that. Canary Capital, his firm, launched one of the first spot XRP exchange-traded funds in the United States. It went live back in November of last year, and it helped kick off a whole wave of other XRP funds that followed right behind it. So yes, when McClurg talks XRP up, he benefits. He runs an XRP product. I am not going to pretend otherwise, and neither should you. Keep that in the back of your mind, always. But here is why it still genuinely matters, even knowing that. An exchange-traded fund is a bridge. It lets ordinary people, and far more importantly, large institutions, buy exposure to XRP through a normal brokerage account. No wallets, no seed phrases, no custody headaches, no fear of sending it to the wrong address. Just a ticker symbol, bought and sold like a regular stock. For a huge chunk of the money in this world, that convenience is not a small thing. It is the whole thing. And the demand flowing into these XRP funds has been real. We have seen record volume days, hundreds of millions of dollars changing hands, steady inflows even during rough, choppy weeks in the market. That is not hype on social media. That is money actually moving, actually being committed. And remember, every dollar that flows into a genuine spot fund has to be backed by real XRP, held safely somewhere. Which brings us to the quiet hero of this entire story, custody. For years, the single biggest thing holding institutions back was not belief. A lot of them believed. What they lacked was trust in storage. A bank managing tens of billions of dollars is never going to hold crypto on some random phone app. It is simply not going to happen. They need regulated, insured, professional-grade custody from a name they already trust with their reputation on the line. And that infrastructure has finally been built out properly. Ripple itself has invested heavily in institutional-grade custody, the kind of secure foundation that lets a serious financial player finally lean back and say, okay, we can actually hold this safely now. That single unlock, boring as it sounds, quietly removes one of the last big walls standing between trillions of dollars and this asset class. So when you put the whole picture together, it becomes clear. You have a regulated on-ramp through the funds. You have real custody solving the trust problem at last. And you have a growing reason to actually hold XRP through yield and lending. Those, right there, are the three catalysts I promised you at the very start of this video. Financial rails, native yield, and the institutional on-ramp. Are they guarantees? Absolutely not. But are they real? And are they happening right now? Yes, completely. So if all of this is lining up so nicely, then why on earth is XRP still sitting down around $1.43? That is a fantastic question, and the answer might be the most honest thing I say in this entire video. Here's the truth that separates this channel from all the noise out there. Everything I just described to you is bullish, genuinely, structurally bullish. But none of it, and I mean none of it, means XRP goes straight up in a clean line. Price and adoption do not move together in lockstep. You can have banks quietly building, funds steadily growing, and custody fully solved, and still watch the price chop sideways, or even bleed lower, for months on end. That is not a contradiction. That is just how markets actually work. And that is exactly what McClurg himself warned about. He is bullish on where XRP is ultimately going, and he is genuinely cautious about the bumpy road it takes to get there. Both of those things are true at the very same time. And that, right there, is the mindset I want you to carry out of this video. So how should you actually use a prediction like his $3 to $4 call? Not as a promise. Never as a promise. Use it as a data point. When a Wall Street veteran, someone who runs a real, regulated fund and has built these products before, hands you a grounded number with the risks attached, that is worth so much more than an anonymous account screaming about a $1,000 XRP with absolutely no reasoning behind it. The grounded voice is almost always the one worth listening to, even when its number feels smaller and less exciting. Because a realistic target you can actually plan around will beat a fantasy target that only exists to get you emotional, every single time. And notice one more thing. McClurg's number, the bank's numbers, all of them, they are opinions. Educated opinions, backed by real catalysts, but opinions all the same. Nobody knows the future. Nobody. Anyone who tells you they know exactly where XRP will be and exactly when is selling you something. The honest answer is that XRP has a genuinely strong case quietly building underneath it, and it also has very real risks sitting right in front of it. Your job is not to guess a magic number. Your job is to understand the thesis, watch the catalysts, and decide for yourself whether this story is getting stronger or weaker as the months roll on. Right now, with a former Wall Street skeptic turning into a believer, backed by funds, custody, and yield, I would personally argue the story is getting stronger. But you get to make that call, not me. So keep your head clear. Tune out the screaming headlines. Follow the real signals, not the loudest ones. And always remember, the calmest voice in the room is very often the one actually worth hearing. So let us bring it all home. Steven McClurg is not a hype man. He is a finance veteran who helped build some of the very first Bitcoin funds on Wall Street, who watched XRP from the sidelines for years as a doubter, and who finally stepped in because the numbers themselves changed his mind. His call of $3 to $4 is grounded, it is honest, and it is attached to a much bigger idea. The idea that XRP could one day become the rails the entire financial system quietly runs on. Add in real fund demand, real custody, and real yield, and you have a story that absolutely deserves your attention, without ever deserving your blind faith. So stay grounded, stay curious, and keep showing up, because the people who understand this stuff early are the ones who are never caught off guard when the world finally catches on. This has been Crypto with BHW. We're early, the foundation is being poured, and I'll see you in the very next one.